Well, peace, friends. I'm Pastor Tom Arthur from Sycamore Creek Church in Lansing. It's good to see you all this morning.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
We have an amazing worship episode here today. I am joined by guest co-host Keontae Saxon.
What's going on, Tom?
Keontae is a local poet, previous MSU track runner.
All of that.
In a past life, you were a certified professional trainer.
All of that.
Man, every time I look online, you're like exploding all over the place.
Hey, it's just community work, man. That's what we do. We get out in the community and we love to do what we do.
Keontae is going to be sharing an original piece that he wrote for us today as we explore what we can learn from Olympic athletes about persevering and enduring through trial, through challenge. Super excited to hear that and share that with you this morning. We also have in the room Matthew Ryan Klaus, who's going to be leading us in some worship singing a little bit later.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I have not seen you, Matthew, in person for like a year and a half. I've only seen you on the screen singing. It is so good to see you. Yes, yes. Potterville is in the house today. I see lots of Potterville people, and they are online. So, hey, our very own Jeremy Cracky is taking our music videos to the next level.
Okay.
With a cover of Keep Your Head Up by Andy Grammer. Do you know the song?
I'm looking forward to that.
Are you familiar with it?
I'm looking forward to that.
All
yes,
right.
sir.
Well, here's Jeremy Cracky. While you are watching that, whether you're in the room or whether you're online, we would love for you to talk about this. Type in the comment section on Facebook. Talking about endurance and perseverance today. What is the longest that you have ever walked or run or biked or anything that you had to actually like get yourself there? We're going to talk about that after Jeremy Cracky, Andy Grammer cover. Keep your head up. Here he is.
Whoa, yeah, whoa. I've been waiting on the sunset, bills on my mindset. I can't deny they're getting high, higher than my income's breadcrumbs. I've been trying to survive. The glow that the sun gives right around sunset helps me realize this is just a journey. Drop your worries, you're gonna turn out fine. Oh, you turn out fine. Fine, oh, you turn out fine. But you gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey. You gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey. I know it's hard to remember sometimes, but you gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey, 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 hey. I've got my hands in my pockets, kicking these rocks. It's kinda hard to watch this life go by. I'm buying in the skeptics mess with the confidence in my eyes. I'm seeing all the angles start to get tangled. I start to compromise my life and the purpose. Is it all worth it? Am I gonna turn out fine? Oh, you turn out fine. Fine, oh, you turn out fine. But you gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey. You gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey. I know it's hard to remember sometimes, but you gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey, 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 hey. Only rainbows after rain, the sun will always come again, and it's a circle, circling round again, comes around again. I said only rainbows after rain, the sun will always come again, and it's a circle, circling around again, it comes around again. Gotta keep your head up, oh, if you can let your head down, hey. You gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey. I know it's hard to remember sometimes, but you gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey. Keep your head up, and you can let your head down. Keep your head up, and you can let your head down. Keep your head up, and you can let your head down. So keep your head up, and you can let your head down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Jeremy's helping us keep our head up and our
Facts.
hair down today.
I love it. And
Yeah.
what they didn't get a chance to see is we just had the crowd clapping. Like,
We got it going.
We got some energy going.
You
in
got
here.
it going.
We got it going.
Because I'm
We got it
rhythmically challenged, but you got it going. You got it going.
Making it happen.
Hey, you have run track at MSU.
This is true.
But a lot of those are real short. What's the longest?
I was a sprinter. I like to run fast for a short amount of time, not slow for a long amount of time. But truth be told, I have run 10 miles in one stint before. But my actual answer to the question is, I remember being out in California in Malibu, and there was these mountains called the Zuma Mountains or Zuma Trails. And we hiked that for probably about like 3 hours. But the view at the top of it was so worth the dead feeling of my legs after we got done.
It's all about the view.
Yeah,
Say it
It's
again?
about the view. It's
Yeah.
all about the view.
It's all
When
about
you
the
get
view.
to the top.
It's all
Matthew,
about the view.
how long have you walked or run or biked? What's the longest you've ever done?
Ran probably 5 miles.
Okay.
Walked. I can walk for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've hiked 100 miles of the Appalachian Trail.
100 miles?
100 miles through the
Yeesh.
Smoky Mountains National Park. In fact, here's a picture of that from that trip.
Oh, yeah.
My feet were pretty tired after that. But you know what? That is nothing compared to Lucy James, a recent graduate from Hazlitt High School, who is part of our church, and she is on the Appalachian Trail right now.
Oh, wow.
She created this little slideshow and video to show us how far she's been hiking.
Are we playing that?
Yeah. Here
Let's
she
do
is.
that. There we go.
Great.
I've reached mile 1,300. It has taken me 4 months to backpack Georgia all the way up to New Jersey, just after the halfway point. I've learned many things on this long journey up the East Coast, but the most important lesson I've learned is how important perseverance is and trusting God, even when you're afraid and don't have any control of the situation. Thank you for all the support on my journey. Bye!
1,300 miles, 4 months. She's been walking.
Did y'all
That's-
hear that? 1,300.
Wow.
We could get some round of applause, some
1,300
snaps for
miles.
that. 1,300.
That's awesome.
Yeesh.
I see lots of answers in the Facebook comments. Jeremy Cracky, who we listened to earlier, he's done 60-plus miles in the Grand Teton National Park
Okay.
in 4 days.
Wow.
Okay.
You're going up to the UP here this week.
I am.
You going to get any long hikes in there?
I don't know if I'm gonna do 1,300, but we gonna take a few steps. I might get a few steps on the pedometer.
Dave Hemingway, who's in the studio here, did a 30-mile bike trip once.
Woo.
And he said he found that even at age 20, I should have done some prep work first.
Yeah.
Jeria
yeah.
Wilson said she did the Hawk Island Triathlon a few years ago.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
yeah, that comes right by our building here
She
on
said
Sunday morning.
that was interesting.
Yeah.
Did she put the interesting in all caps?
No, but it was like ...
Right. So we know what that means. We know what that means.
Interesting, yeah. Well, hey, friends, we are so glad you have joined us today. We would love for you to like and share and subscribe. Even if you're in the studio here, you can follow along on Facebook and take a selfie while you are at it and tag it with the hashtag SCCMI. We would also love for you to connect with us through our digital connection card, or if you're in the room, the physical connection card. You remember these things? Fill this out, put your name and your email, anything, any information you want to share with us.
The old way.
And you drop that in the blue buckets there that are at your tables or at your feet or wherever you're at. Use those, again, I see people out there in the studio taking a selfie. Tag it SCCMI. And our selfie of the week is Kathy Doby from our service last week out
There
in
you go.
Potterville.
Nice.
We shut things down here at this campus, and everybody went out there. And Kathy got some awesome shots of what was happening. Thank you,
Kathy.
Kathy, for taking those pictures. We would, by the way, again, we'd love to connect with you through that digital connection card. And if you fill that out, sycamorecreekchurch.org/connect, we will send you a free book, Max Lucado's book, You'll Get Through This. This is kind of what we're talking about today,
Let's do
Keontae,
it.
getting through this, building the muscles, spiritual muscles of perseverance and endurance
Yes, sir.
to get through the trials of life.
Yes, sir.
You
It is
put
a lot.
together, you wrote an original piece for us today.
I did. One
For
time.
this.
This is the one and only time that people are going to get to hear this. So I hope y'all appreciate it.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, they can't be quiet out there.
Can't
they,
be quiet.
They got a snap.
Okay.
They gotta-
Who's here ever been to open mic before? So y'all know some poetry etiquette. When you hear something that you like, let's get some snaps going in the
Snaps.
building. Apparently, Tom has given us the permission to do some rewind. So if you hear something you really like, you can yell out rewind, and I'll just say it all over again. So
Rewind.
there it is.
There it is.
I like it.
Rewind. All right, so set this poem up for us, and then
Ooh, set this poem up. So it's really a combination of how to endure through life's journey. It's very difficult, as you said. I used to run hurdles, and I think it's a perfect analogy of life that race is. You know, you're running, you're trying to move forward, go ahead, but now you got these obstacles that you got to get over. And in hurdles, obviously, we get over it as quickly as we can. But sometimes in life, that's not the case. Sometimes you just got to figure out a way to get over it, whether you go through it, go over it, get around it, whatever the case may be. And so there's a lot of track analogy involved, and there's a lot of biblical analogy involved. So I'm sure y'all going to be able to resonate and catch some of the lines in this piece. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, hey, why don't you take the floor?
Let's do it.
And while Keontae's stepping up to the microphone, friends, give it up for Keontae Saxon in this original poem, original piece he's written just for us today. Here's Keontae Saxon.
All right, guys. First off, I appreciate y'all having me. Like you said, my name is Keontae Saxon. I also go by KT, the Conscious Poet. Let me put this mic up just a little bit. And like I said, if y'all feeling something, go ahead and snap for me, okay? Feedback. Same energy I give you guys, I want y'all to give me that same energy back, okay? This piece is actually untitled, but we're going to call it Patience and Endurance for today, okay? Life is a track meet, and we are as athletes. Waiting at the finish line, I'm waiting at the starting line, anticipating the bang of the gun with no fear of being shot, but fear of not finishing first. Life is a track meet, and we are its athletes. Waiting at the starting line, anticipating the bang of the gun with no fear of being shot, only the fear of not finishing first. Why? For there is no medal that mimics the marking of the crown. No podium that places you higher than the poised position on the rock, and no finish that will find you further than the favor of the Lord.
Amen.
Yet we strive. Gritting and grinding our teeth like salt from the mill when we are called to be salt of the earth, yet we strive. Sprinting toward the fallacy of a finish line as if sprinting and breaking a world record toward death will be the sum of our lives. Life is a marathon. The patient thrive. Too fast out of the blocks and you'll lose steam, but too slow and you'll get left behind. But Coach said the ones who endure, those will be the ones who receive the crown of life. Let me tell you what he said to me one day. He said, patience, son. He said, I asked you to walk by faith, so sometimes your sight won't make sense, son. Here's your talent, so take this, son. Multiply it, don't save this, son. Don't worry about how far you jump, because after you leave your mark in the sand, they will rake this, son. And what you thought was a leap of faith turned out to make you a faithless son.
Rewind.
He said, patience, son. I asked you to walk by faith, so sometimes your sight won't make sense, son. Here's your talent, take this, son. Multiply it, don't save this, son. Don't worry about how far you jump, because after you leave your mark in the sand, they will rake this, son. And what you thought was a leap of faith turned out to be something that made you a faithless son. But fear not, for this test is a chance to rise up. I mean, high jump into a new mantle. Oh, it's time to raise the bar. You see, they'll clap for you on the approach, or snap. But let outside the disappointment when you don't make the mark. But not God. For his power works best in your weakness. So be thankful for the long suffering, for when endurance is developed, you'll be perfect and completed. But Jesus, I'm tired. I've been running for a long time. My legs are heavy in this burden. I thought that you would ease it. Following you is probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And right now, I don't know if I can actually achieve it.
Rewind.
But Jesus, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I've been running for a long time and my legs are heavy. This burden, I thought that you would ease it. Following you is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And right now, I don't know if I can actually achieve it.
Amen.
In fact, Doubt is the baton relaying around the track of my thoughts. Disbelief passing to distrust. Distrust passing to fear. Fear passing to self-sabotage, which is making its way down the home stretch. But wait, there's another team on the track, and it's making a comeback. Hope passing to patience. Patience passing to endurance, and endurance passing to character who can hardly feel its legs, but somehow is closing the gap. God is catching up to me. All I have to do is endure. That's it, guys. Thank you.
Woo! Loved it. Yes.
Man, you just set up the message just perfect for today. So,
Man.
hey, give it up again one more time for KT, the conscious poet.
Thank you guys so much. That means a lot.
So good.
And today's message begins with this. Today's message will be discussing sexual abuse. If you're in an abusive situation, it's not your fault. Help is available. Contact the National Sexual Abuse Hotline at 1-800-656-4673. Sycamore Creek also has funds and a counselor available that can be contacted at counselor@sycamorecreekchurch.org. I get really emotional watching that video about the United Nations Refugee Olympic Team. In fact, I get really emotional watching the Olympics altogether. I cry a lot. I'm talking a lot. I cry even thinking about watching the Olympics. I'm probably going to cry during this episode. You see, it's a lifetime of training summed up in mere seconds. Mere seconds. In the 2012 Olympics at London, Michaela Maroney was a 17-year-old gymnast expected to win gold. She was known for soaring through the higher than anyone had ever seen before. Listen to the announcer right before she takes her final vault.
Let's say that every vault is about 5 seconds. Her entire Olympics, which may take her to 2 medals, 25 seconds. 25 seconds in competition.
25 seconds. 25 seconds. A whole lifetime summed up in 25 seconds. Well, here's what happened.
Oh my God!
I'm not crying. You're crying. I mean, Michaela Maroney was so good that even though she fell on that final vault, she didn't get gold, but she still got silver. She still stood on the podium. But when she received the silver medal, well, she pouted a bit, and the cameras caught her, and it became a meme. Michaela Maroney is not impressed. She's not impressed with the Hunger Games. She's not impressed with praying and kneeling before football games. She's not impressed with royal weddings. She's not impressed with the Mars rover, Leonardo DiCaprio. She's not even impressed with the Oval Office. And apparently the Oval Office isn't very impressed with her. And recently, like in the last month or so, she's not impressed doing commercials.
Jason, did you know Geico could save you hundreds on car insurance and a whole lot more?
Cool.
So what are you waiting for? Michaela Maroney to get your Frisbee off the roof?
I'll get it.
Whoa.
Here you go.
Thank you, Michaela.
Dude, get it. I'm not getting it. You get it. You threw it.
The whole thing has been quite a trial for her to endure, and she is not impressed. You know, all of us are either going into a trial, coming out of a trial, or getting ready for the next trial in our life. So I got a question for you. What trials have you been through that you faced and they've required endurance, physical or otherwise? Let's talk about that. So I answer this question a little bit later on in the message and go into quite a bit of depth for myself personally. But what I do know as a pastor is this last year and a half has been the most challenging year for pastoral care for people. Just one person after another is going through some kind of trial.
Yeah.
It's just been a pressure cooker of a year.
Yeah.
Keontae, how about you? How would you answer this question?
You know, I think life in general just has such a cyclical nature of the bullet points that you put on the move. You're either going into one, coming out of one, or preparing, you know, for the next one. And, you know, I look at those opportunities as levels of growth, but like it's still so difficult sometimes to get through it. And so I can appreciate that, you know, your perspective as a pastor from that. But I think for me, I mean, there have been so many as an ex-track athlete, even, you know, resonating with what you were talking about with Maroney there. Like, you train so hard for literally, in my case, like 10 seconds of, you know, a race. You're pushing yourself to the limit. You talk about getting on a track and coach is like, all right, we got repeat 400s today. I'm like, what are you, what? Repeat? I'm done after one. So physically, that's probably some of the hardest, you know, things that I put my body through. But emotionally, spiritually, I think even in this past season, over the past like year or so, I've had to experience heartbreak at another level that I've never had to go through before. And so that has required so much like emotional endurance and spiritual endurance from me, and really just relying on God to help me get through those kind of times. 'Cause I mean, some rough days when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matthew, how about you? Where are you at in this right now?
You know, as a small business owner, obviously over the past 12 months, continuing to do the same thing when you're not seeing results.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And keeping that consistency of doing the right things, the same things, when the results aren't there yet.
Yep.
And so I think that's what a lot of small businesses are going through and otherwise, right? Keeping your hand to the plow when you're not seeing an end in sight or you're not seeing results manifesting. And so keeping that consistency and doing the right thing, even though the payoff is not in sight. Yeah.
We got a lot of great answers on Facebook. Gretchen, anyone you want to highlight for us today?
Well, we've had two different people, your wife and then Dwayne Dietrich, talking about cancer.
Yeah.
He was talking about when Nancy, his wife, was diagnosed with cancer. He was in the middle of a semester at CMU, and they had just lost her sister like 4 months before. So that, I can't even imagine.
Lots of broken bones in the comments as well.
Yes.
Yeah, my neighbor just broke his
various
ankle.
things that
Heal
have
well.
required perseverance through that.
so much.
Well, hey, let's go back to my basement and my late night TV Chuck Norris infomercial Total Gym.
Let's do it.
All right, let's see it. With anything good in life comes some kind of trial, some kind of perseverance and endurance. The trial to continue going, the trial to endure to the finish, the trial to change course, the trial to decide when it's time to stop. Olympic athletes face all kinds of trials: the trial of injury, the trial of illness, the trial of negative press, or finding out that your mom died from a reporter. The trial of corrupt systems, the trial of COVID and this whole pandemic. Would the Olympics happen this year or next year or next year? When? The trial of competing without anybody in the stands. All of us go through some sort of trial, especially spiritual trials, feeling alone in this world. The trial of a difficult job or unemployment or some sort of loss that we're experiencing. What I'd like to talk with you today about are 3 practices for building endurance amidst the trials of life, spiritual trials or otherwise. So here's the first expectation. Examine and adjust your expectations. I think most of our struggles in life could be the result of really just unrealistic set of expectations. Now, Jesus makes a promise to us, and I know that we like to hold on to the promises of Jesus, but this is one that you may have never thought of even as a promise. Here's what Jesus says. His beloved follower, his beloved friend John records him saying this: I have told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Well, that sounds good so far, but then he takes a quick left turn. Here on earth, you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I have overcome the world. Now, why is Jesus making this promise to us? Why does he tell us that, you know what, you're going to have a lot, I promise you, you're going to have a lot of trials and troubles in this world? I think one of the reasons he tells us this is because if we expect trials, we'll be better able to endure them. But if you expect life to be without trial, you're going to have a really hard time enduring to the end. Elsewhere, Jesus says, and everyone will hate you because you are my followers, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. Jesus' own road was marked by persecution and trials, and he's basically saying, listen, if you follow me, you're going to get that too. The first century Christians faced trials of all sorts of kinds. They were a minority in an oppressive situation. They were beaten, they were scorned, they were thrown in prison, they were wrongly accused. They wouldn't bow to the emperor. When they decided to follow Jesus, they knew what they were signing up for. I think this is why Howard Thurman, one of the mentors of Martin Luther King Jr., would talk about the following of Jesus as a survival method for the person whose back is against the wall. It's easy to fall into a trap sometimes in thinking that the trials and troubles that we are facing are God's punishment. But here's what I want you to know. Trials and troubles are not God's punishment. Jesus promised you would have them. Sometimes the trials and troubles are the natural consequences of poor decision making, but those trials and troubles, they're not God's punishment. Prayer plus Bible plus worship, well, that doesn't necessarily equal no trials and troubles in this world. In fact, God doesn't cause our trials, but God is with us in the trial. So let go of the expectation that life will always be easy, will be fun, will be soft, will be comfortable. Build endurance by examining your expectations and adjusting them. All right, that's the first practice for building endurance today. So here's the second practice for building endurance. Celebrate your weaknesses by cultivating vulnerability. You know, trials, they're draining, they're exhausting. We lack energy for them. We got nothing left. They reveal our weaknesses. And you know, we all have weaknesses. No matter what your strengths are, we all have weaknesses. It's at this moment that we realize that we need a strength bigger than our own. We need a strength that covers our weaknesses. And what does this look like? What does that kind of strength look like? Well, Paul, the first missionary of the church and the author of many of the books of the Bible, wrote this from a prison cell. Yeah, that's right, a prison cell. He said, "For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength." When we're at our breaking point, we have to depend on a strength, on a power that is greater than our own. Paul speaks in another place to the church at Corinth, and he tells them and talks to them about what he calls a thorn in the flesh. And he says he asked God to take this thorn away from his flesh. Now, scholars debate about what this thorn might be, and I think it's interesting that Paul doesn't tell us exactly what it is. It lets us perhaps read our own weakness, our own thorn into his own letter, his own writing. But I don't know, the most interesting theory I've heard is that Paul was struggling with losing his sight. And here's what he writes to the Corinthians. Each time God said, "My grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. So now I am glad to boast about my weakness so that the power of Christ can work through me." He's going to boast about his weakness. I mean, how many of you boast about your weakness? Well, Paul does. He goes on saying, "That's why I take pleasure in my weakness." You heard him right. Take pleasure in my weakness. And in the insults, the hardships, the persecutions, and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Now, this is super counterintuitive to think that you find strength in your weakness, to find strength in cultivating vulnerability. But Paul doesn't hide his weakness. In fact, he celebrates it. He boasts about it. So if you want to build endurance, celebrate your weakness by cultivating vulnerability. Share your weakness with a trusted and safe and healthy friend, or a trusted or safe professional. And you know how you do this? You cultivate it a little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. It's kind of like dating. You don't go out on your first date and just verbally vomit all of your weakness on this person. No, you share just a little bit, and you see how they respond to that. And if they respond well, if the safe space continues to be there, you share a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more. And in this way, you cultivate vulnerability. You celebrate your weaknesses. You know what I found over time? I found that when I confess my own weaknesses, when I open up vulnerably to my circle of friends, confession leads to confession. Vulnerability leads to vulnerability. It just takes the first person being willing to go there. Now you may wonder, well, how does this help me endure? Well, the way it helps you endure is that you tell the truth about yourself and you're honest about your own limits. Nobody is infinite. Nobody is limitless. That job description, friends, is already taken. In sharing our weaknesses and cultivating vulnerability, what we do is we throw away this idea that we can be a lone ranger all by ourselves, self-sufficient. When we hide our weaknesses, you know what we're letting drive our lives? Shame and fear. When we project that everything about us is strong, rather than be open about our weaknesses, we're allowing fear and shame to guide our decisions. Because everybody has weaknesses. Everybody has weaknesses. Sharing weaknesses builds community support. And also invites communal discernment in examining and adjusting unrealistic expectations. A lot of times the weakness that you have are your unrealistic expectations. So when you cultivate vulnerability with those trusted, safe friends around you, they help you discern what's realistic and what's unrealistic. And ultimately, sharing your weakness puts your focus back on God's strength. So here's a question I have for you. How good are you at cultivating vulnerability? How good are you at sharing your weaknesses with God, but also and especially those around you? Let's talk about that. So this gets a little bit tricky for me at times, Keontae, because I'm a pastor and a lot of people are meeting with me as a pastor, and it's not really a space where I'm the one sharing my vulnerability. But when I'm with colleagues or friends outside of that role, I'm almost always the first person to be vulnerable. If you and I were sitting down, we weren't planning anything about you being here, and we were just having a coffee or whatever, I would often be somebody who'd open up pretty quickly about what I was struggling with right now.
Right.
It's maybe not right off the bat in the conversation.
You're not just going to come right at me. You're not going to vomit on me. You just, okay.
Because I'm not, I don't know. I'm an introvert. I don't really like small talk that much, so I like to get to the deep stuff.
Right.
How about you? How good are you at this? Is this a struggle for you, or
okay.
Are you good at being vulnerable with those around you?
Interestingly enough, I'm an introvert as well, and so I don't necessarily like the small talk, but cultivating vulnerability has not always been a strength of mine. Growing up, I was, always in athletics. I had the, biggest male influence in my life. He was a Marine, so it's like we didn't do those kinds of things, and so it's taken a very intentional journey to be able to try and cultivate that vulnerability. So I'm getting better at it. I'm in a much better place now. But yeah, growing up, that wasn't a huge thing for me. So I could say thanks to God and thanks to previous relationships and, someone pushing me, I'm able to cultivate it a little deeper.
It's,
now.
I think, a real struggle for men. Our culture does not encourage or train men about how to be vulnerable.
We got to suck it
their
up,
weaknesses.
get better. We don't cry.
Put the face on.
Put the face on.
Get on the track and run the race.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
How about you, Matthew?
Oh boy, that is loaded question. Yeah, exactly. Being a stylist, you're in that position all the time, and I think leading with vulnerability with whoever you're talking to, as you know, as a stylist, you're the therapist too. But to do that, I think leading with some of my own vulnerability allows them to be a little more comfortable. Like things are not always what it seems, and just kind of opening your heart up a little bit. And leading with vulnerability really, I think, allows other people to have permission for the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about the dynamic of people come in, and Matthew, you are always immaculate. Like your hair, everything about you is immaculate.
You should see me at
and
home.
it's really easy to
probably
to hide behind that with vulnerability. But you're saying you share a little bit, even
That's
as
the
you're.
thing, people only see what they see, right? And in every situation, right? And if we were only to see in the heart of that person when we meet them, right? You just don't know. And so things can be real tricky on the outside. So I think that's why, especially in what we do in a physical nature, everyone's supposed to look a certain way. But to put some of those vulnerable issues on the table and say it's okay to, we're all human beings, right? Giving that ground and allowing that space for a real conversation. That's my favorite part of my job, actually.
Yeah. I think Tiffany and David are having a marital conversation in the comments section of Facebook. So we'll look forward to seeing how that vulnerability plays out.
Oh boy.
Hey, let's go back to my basement gym / kids playroom.
Give it up for the total gym.
It's really hard to cultivate vulnerability, isn't it? But it is so important. Let's do that, friends. All right, so here's the third practice. The third practice for building endurance through trials and troubles. Find a purpose in the pain. Now here's what James says in the Bible. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds. What in the world? How can we consider trials of many kinds as pure joy? I mean, that's crazy. James goes on, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Testing produces perseverance. And let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. You see, trials and struggles, they lead to perseverance, and perseverance produces maturity and character. This is the goal of the Christian life. It's to be fully and completely in the character of Christ, in the maturity of Christ, in the love and justice of Christ, to be fully surrendered to who Christ is in us. Now, this statement is attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt. A woman is like tea. You never know how strong she is until she gets in hot water. I love that statement. I think it could probably be applied to really anybody, men or women or otherwise. And I found that experience in my own love of the endurance sport of backpacking. Can you call that an endurance sport? Well, I'm going to. I have backpacked or hiked in countless places in Michigan's lower and upper peninsula. Very close to home, I love hiking in Birchfield Park with my family. I've gone to Nordhaus Dunes with my boys, Micah and Sam. I've been to the Manistee River with Jeremy Cracky and dozens of other people. Pictured Rocks with my brother Rick. The Porcupine Mountains with my wife Sarah. Manitou Island on a church outing trip. Grand Island with Sarah. The Adirondacks in New York with my college roommates. The Appalachian Trail with my friend Martin. Yosemite in California with my friend Bill, who happens to be an Ironman. But not only in the United States have I backpacked, I've backpacked and hiked around the world. I've backpacked on the North Shore of Lake Superior in Canada with youth from Petoskey United Methodist Church, where I used to work. I've hiked in the Appuani Alps in Italy with Sarah and the Cinque Terre in Italy with Sarah, the Lake District in England with Sarah's family, and then I spent 3 weeks at the Middle East Travel Seminar in seminary, and I got the chance to hike in Petra in Jordan. My ability to endure the strain and struggle of backpacking started to change about 7 to 9 years ago when I started to experience pretty intense foot pain in both feet. Now, to make a long story short, countless hours in physical therapy and in the gym, and 3 surgeries later, my feet really aren't much better. And I've had to find other ways to get into the wilderness besides on my feet. Like recently, I've learned to really enjoy canoeing. I just went on an amazing canoe trip with my family on the Ausable River, probably the most beautiful river that I have ever been on. It was such a wonderful time in that little canoe, the 4 of us, and I only yelled at my kids once. I consider that a success. But even more than my foot pain leading me to find a new way to enjoy being in the wilderness, the foot pain has been perfecting in me a kind of humility, a kind of empathy, a kind of compassion for those around me. Now, I'm not sure yet that I'm at the place where I would consider my foot pain pure joy, but the pain has presented an opportunity for growth that wasn't there before the pain. Now, that's really important to remember at this point, okay? God does not cause our trials. God does not cause our pain, but God is with us in the trials. But my foot pain has softened me and has taken away some of the hard edges on my personality with the people around me, the people that I love, my family, my friends, my church, really just with anybody I come in contact with. So I wonder what opportunities for purpose present themselves in your own pain. Well, let's talk about this question. Where have you seen trial and endurance produce character and maturity in your life or in the life of somebody around you? Let's talk about that. Keontae, it has been so hard for me to give up the joy of backpacking. The last time I did it was at Picture Rocks, which you're going up there this next week. I'm envious of you, but I did it with my son Micah in 2018, and I realized, just hiking 3 miles, I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Like I said in the video, I've had to reimagine getting out in the wilderness, which is, I've actually learned that canoeing is even more fun than backpacking. It's not nearly as much work.
Right? I love being out on the water anyway. It's a different feeling.
But it's produced a kind of character change in me, that pain. Have you had any kind of experience like that where pain, trial produced some maturity in you that wasn't there before?
Absolutely. I think we all have, or we all should have. But I think for me, those couple things, I have to go back to either heartbreak or entrepreneurship, really. I think both of those things have taught me or changed in my character to be tied to the process versus tied to the outcome or to the expectation, right? And when you do that, or when you approach it with that mindset, you're able to pick things up differently, and it does develop and, you know, changing your character. Because like I said, entrepreneurship, especially having this outcome, it hardly ever goes like the way that you think it's going to go. Anything in life, right? Whether we make a plan for something, it hardly ever goes the way that we think it's going to go. And if we have that mindset of, oh man, it didn't go the way I planned it, and so we look at that as failure, instead of being tied to the outcome, and whatever the outcome is how it was supposed to go, but paying attention to what, you know, you picked up during that process. I think that's the character change or the mind shift that happened to me, you know, through heartbreak and through entrepreneurship life.
To be in the process less than the end goal.
The end goal or the outcome.
Yeah,
facts.
As you're talking about entrepreneurship, Matthew, I'm thinking, you know, you have a very established salon at this point in Old Town, but that it wasn't always the case. I mean, you were at some point at the beginning of that entrepreneurship.
Absolutely, yeah. And just starting somewhere. We started in a little storefront in Old Town, but I think just keeping the goal in mind and having a clear vision of what you want while you're taking the current steps, you know, to do that. But yeah, I mean, just starting somewhere.
Has that been a character formation for you, developing that salon, getting that business up and running?
Yeah, you know, with any business, you've got your highs and lows, and then you've got your stagnant times. And like I was saying earlier, just kind of, you know, maintaining that consistent work, even though you're not seeing much.
Yeah.
You know, just keeping.
I think about this last year, and when you said that, it hits me like, as a pastor, pastors have really struggled. I've not struggled quite as much as some of my colleagues, because I have an amazing church that's let me be creative without punishing me for it. But a lot of pastors don't serve
Kudos
churches
to you guys.
like
Kudos
that.
to you guys.
But it's one thing I've had to lean on, similar to what you're talking about, is just the joy of the work.
Yeah.
The joy of creating something like what this message that we're watching, the joy of trying to create this space in here, rather than like looking out and seeing how many people are here, which we've got a decent crowd this morning, or how many people are online watchers. But really just enjoying the process, the work that God has called us to, and letting that shape our character.
And there's always a price of admission, right? And doing what you love. You know, there's challenges, and those are just the price of admission to give us the opportunity to do that.
Gotta pay the cost to be the boss.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Well, hey, let's get back to the boss in the basement on the Total Gym.
Yeah.
So if you want to build endurance through the trials in life, here's 3 practices for you to do that we've talked about today. Number 1, examine and adjust your expectations. Number 2, celebrate your weaknesses by cultivating vulnerability. And number 3, find a purpose in the pain. Michaela Maroney's story of perseverance and endurance amidst pain and trials becomes even more impressive when you consider the devastating revelation of what was happening behind the scenes. Michaela Maroney was one of hundreds of young women who were abused by Larry Nassar, while the USA Gymnastics failed to take responsibility for not protecting their athletes, including Michaela Maroney and Simone Biles. Recently, after USAG congratulated Biles on her birthday, she tweeted out, "How about you amaze me and do the right thing? Have an independent investigation." They're still not fully taking responsibility for their role in that abuse. During the Nassar trial, Michaela Maroney was forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement when she settled with USA Gymnastics, who threatened to fine her if she spoke at Larry Nassar's trial. And then Chrissy Teigen weighed in on Twitter, and she offered to pay the fine for Maroney, and USA Gymnastics dropped their threat. We've learned since that the night before the silver medal performance had been one of hundreds of times that Larry Nassar had abused Michaela Maroney. You know, this further knowledge frames that not impressed facial expression in a different way. She's not a pouting teenager anymore. She's a young woman struggling under an entire system that is designed to crush her. I see now in that meme the image of a young woman who has endured unbelievable hardship. Recently, Maroney has found some purpose in the pain. I was encouraged to read a tweet of hers describing a book that she's writing to help others who've been in situations like hers. If you're in a situation like that, if you're in an abusive situation, there is help. It's not your fault. Call the National Sexual Abuse Hotline at 800-656-4673 or contact our counselor here at Sycamore Creek Church. Her name is Damaris Garcia at counselor@sycamorecreekchurch.org. Let's remember for a moment that you are either going into a trial, you're coming out of a trial, or you're getting ready for the next trial. And in the midst of the trials, Olympic athletes set their eyes on the goal with a fierce determination to endure the trials for a purpose. What purpose do you have your eyes set on? Or what purpose has God set your eyes upon? If you want to build endurance through those struggles, examine and adjust your expectations, celebrate your weaknesses by cultivating vulnerability, and find a purpose in the pain. So that you, with St. Paul, can say, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have remained faithful. I think we should end this message today not thinking about how Michaela Maroney didn't land that final vault, but we should watch the near perfect vault she had right before it.
She is absolute state of the art right here.
I'd tear up. I'm choking up right now. Just
it's okay.
Watching that
it's
again.
Okay. You can let it out. We good.
It's so powerful to think of the pressures on her, and pressures that at the time we didn't even know about.
Right.
We didn't even know about them.
You never know what a person is going through, and so, like I said, I try to practice exhibiting kindness to whoever I come across. Just because, like I said, even like Matthew said earlier, just because someone looks like they have it together on the outside, you have no idea what's happening on the inside. So.
Yeah. You know, before we started the episode today, I was telling our team, we have no idea the people who are in the room, or the people who are watching, and what the trials they're going through. The trial they just came out of, the trial they're going into, and how many of them need that message today, the hope of Jesus in the midst of it. We didn't plan on this, but as we were watching this, you and I were chatting a little bit. I feel like we need to hear your poem again.
Encore?
I think that you hit like every single verse that I used, and we didn't even coordinate it.
Exactly.
But I think we need to hear it again.
One more time.
And I think we're going to hear it in a different way now.
We need an encore.
So
we need an encore. What do y'all think out there?
We got a full rewind.
Okay.
Full rewind.
Full rewind. We're running.
All right. So we're gonna let Keontae step down to the microphone. My team is adjusting right now because they were not prepared for this, but they're good and they'll do it. So friends, join me again in thanking God for KT, the conscious poet.
Can we give it up for the team one time? Because I know as being on this side of the microphone and this side of the cameras, those people work so hard, and we throw curveballs at them, and they just adapt and adjust. They complain about it later, but they adjust right now, so it's all good. We're going to make it happen. But I seriously appreciate you guys. And here we go with the encore of Patience and Endurance. Life is a track meet, and we are its athletes. Awaiting at the starting line, anticipating the sound of the gun with no fear of being shot, yet the fear of not finishing first. Why? For there is no medal that mimics the marking of the crown, no podium that places you higher than your poised position on the rock, and no finish that will find you further than the favor of the Lord, yet we strive. Gritting and grinding our teeth like salt from the mill when we are called to be salt from the earth, we strive. sprinting towards the fallacy of a finish line as if breaking a world record towards death will be the sum of our lives, when life is a marathon, and it's the patient who thrive. Too fast out of the blocks and you'll lose steam, and too slow you'll get left behind. But Coach said the ones who endure, those are the ones who will receive the crown of life. Let me tell you what he told me. He said, patience, son. I asked you to walk by faith, so sometimes your sight won't make sense, son. Here's your talent, so take this, son. Please multiply it. Don't save this, son. Don't worry about how far you jump, because after you leave your mark in the sand, they will rake it, son. And what you thought was a leap of faith ended up making you a faithless son. But fear not. See, this is a chance to rise up. High jump into a new mantle. Oh, it's time to raise the bar. See, they'll clap for you on the approach, then let out sighs of disappointment when you don't make the mark. Oh, but not God. See, his power works best in your weakness. So be thankful for long suffering, for when endurance is developed, you will be perfect and completed. But Jesus, I'm tired. I've been running for a long time and my legs are heavy. This burden, I thought you would ease it. Following you was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and in this moment, I don't know if I can actually achieve it. In fact, doubt is the baton relaying in the track of my thoughts, disbelief passing to distrust, distrust to fear, fear to self-sabotage, which is making its way down the home stretch. But wait, there's another team on the track, and it's making a comeback. Hope passing to patience, patience to endurance, endurance to character who hardly can feel its legs, but somehow is closing the gap. I can feel it. God is catching up to me. All I have to do is endure. Snaps. So we just thought that it was such a good thing, a huge thing, that a lot of the scriptures that were in the message were also tied into the scripture. And Tom and I never had a conversation about it, right? And so that's just one of those things where that's a God thing right there. So can we give snaps up for God, please? Thank you.
Thank you, God.
Appreciate you guys again. Thank you.
God. Hey, join me again in thanking God for Keontae in the comments, in the room. We want to create a place here at Sycamore Creek where you can build those muscles of endurance.
Yeah.
And here's some ways that you can connect with us more fully this week.
Congratulations, you won episode 4 of the games. Here's how to collect your prizes. Connect more fully, further, and in deeper friendship by connecting, growing, and serving. Simply go to sycamorecreekchurch.org/connect. First-time guests, when you fill out a connection card, you'll get a free book, You'll Get Through This by Max Lucado. A pastor hangs out outside the pub, and it's not a joke, you can hang out with Pastor Mark on Thursday, July 29th at Sanctuary Spirits in Grand Ledge from 7 to 9. Grab a drink, have some food, and enjoy spiritual conversation or just talking about your life on Thursday, July 29th with Pastor Mark. Next week, we come together with other churches with Pastor Mark at United Church in Bath and Pastor Mark at Two Rivers in South Carolina. Host a worship watch party from your living room. Invite your friends and neighbors and watch together from your couch, Two Rivers in South Carolina or at Bath UMC. Join us as we join together in worship with other churches on August 1st at 10 a.m. Connect with us using Sycamore Creek's app. You can give through the app, listen to sermons online, and access your Bible all right from your phone. Simply type in SCCMI on any mobile device to find us on the app. Not interested in the app but still want to give online? Head to sycamorecreekchurch.org/give and you'll have options there too. Let's take it back to the studio to keep celebrating all the things that your giving makes possible.
So you want to drive down to South Carolina with me?
Yo, let's go. Road trip. Let's do it. I'm down.
We're actually doing it online, virtually. When has there ever been a time in the history of the world where a church could shut down and not meet in their home state and meet with a whole other church in a different state?
I don't remember
that's what we're doing next week, either with me or Pastor Mark is going to be doing it with United Church up in Bath and Gunnisonville. We're so grateful, by the way, for your giving, which helps make all these things happen. And we got this note from Dr. Mir in Nicaragua. She's a doctor that we work with. We've been working with her for about 15, 16 years or so.
Wow.
And we fund a feeding program that she does, I think, 5 days a week. And she feeds like 50 to 70 kids every morning.
Wow.
With the money that we send down there. And she told us that these two kids, this is heartbreaking, these two kids lost their parents to COVID. And they're here in these pictures to say thank you to Sycamore Creek for the food that they're eating right now. That's humbling.
Heavy. That's very heavy and humbling.
That is humbling. Yeah. And we do that, friends, because of your giving to Dr. Mir and to this church, which makes a place like that happen. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your giving. Hey, it's been a long time since we've actually kind of like, I mean, we're like not used to singing together as people.
We together.
At least here at Sycamore
We
Creek.
outside.
In the
We
same room.
outside.
Yeah, I know. So we got Matthew Ryan Klaus is going to lead us in a song. While he is singing it, we hope that at home you'll be singing along.
Yeah.
Or if you are in the room to sing along. Now, y'all are seated, but do you remember how you could stand up? You could
clap,
stand
you could
up
dance.
and you could sing.
I know some of y'all in your kitchen. Y'all can go ahead and cook and sing.
You can stay seated or you can stand up. And if you're online, we'd love to hear the answer to this question. Who's been your best coach in life? Whether it's life, music, sports, whatever. So, hey, join Matthew Ryan in this song.
There we go.
Here we go.
Yes, you can stand if you like. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, your perfect love is casting out fear. And even when I'm caught in the middle of the storms of this life, I won't turn back, I know you are near. And I will fear no evil, for my God is with me. And if my God is with me, whom then shall I fear? Whom then shall I fear? Sing it. Oh no, never let go. Through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go. Every high and every low. Oh no, you never let go, Lord. You never let go of me. Yeah. I can see a light that is coming for the heart that holds on. Sing it. A glorious light beyond all compare. And there will be an end to these troubles. But until that day comes, we'll live to know you here on the earth. Sing, and I will fear no evil, for my God is with me. And if my God is with me, yes, whom then shall I fear? Whom then shall I fear? Yes. Oh no, you never let go. Through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go. Every high and every low. Oh no, you never let go, Lord. You never let go of me. Yeah, I can see a light that is coming for the heart that holds on. There will be an end to these troubles, but until that day comes, yeah, still I will praise you. Still I will praise you. Yes. Yeah, I can see a light that is coming for the heart that holds on. And there will be an end to these troubles, but until that day comes, still I will praise you, still I will praise you. Yeah. Sing it. Oh no, never let go, through the calm and through the singing. Oh no, you never let go, every high and every low. No, you never let go, Lord, you never let go of me. Yeah, sing. Oh no, you never let go, through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go, every high and every low. Oh no, you never let go, Lord, you never let go of me. Oh, you never let go of me.
Yes, sir.
And all who agreed said or typed or used the prayer emoji.
Whatever they say.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, friends, go ahead and have a seat. I love this, by the way. This is perfect for you.
Wait a minute.
You ever have that happen to you while you're doing the hurdles?
What is happening over here? No, funny story. As one of the premier hurdlers in the state at the time, we had like a hurdle relay. A lot of people don't know, like there's called a shuttle hurdle relay. And the hurdles are actually lower than the normal hurdle height. And so me being arrogant as I was like, I don't really need to focus on these hurdles that much. And I ended up tripping over a shorter hurdle than I was used to going over and disqualified us from the race that we were supposed to win. So funny story. But yes, that has happened to me before where sometimes you just got to get over it however it feels right.
That was a character building moment.
Character building moment. Like, you should probably be a little more humble, guy.
Have you got a coach right now? A business coach, life coach, entrepreneurial coach?
I mean, I have my mentor, a good friend of yours actually, Pastor Sean Holland.
Okay.
He's probably the coach in my life right now, and he has given me so many good like tidbits, wisdom, life information that has seen me vaulted onto the track that I have been on over the last 6-7 months, and so super thankful for him. But it was difficult, like thinking of this question, just because I think in general life is the best coach. Like I think life is a comedian. Like God is a comedian in so many ways, and he'll put you in these positions and then like, oh, you thought it was gonna go that way, but not, it's actually gonna go this way. And he's like, just picture him up there laughing, like, not in a mean way, but just in a like, you thought you knew what was going on, but this is actually what's happening. So like, to me, life is the best coach if you choose to pay attention to it.
Carmen Marie says, my grandmother has always been a true coach in my faith. Give it up for the grandmas out there. Woo, woo, yeah.
All the grannies.
Tony Harris says, best coach was the Army drill sergeant.
Oh, wow. That's
yeah, you don't argue with that, coach.
Nope, we're not going there.
Matthew, how about you? Best coach you've had, or you got a coach right now?
Oh, there's a lot of them. And I think that sometimes, depending on the seasons, they change, right? Depending on what season you're in. You've got some different voices that are kind of speaking louder. So there's a whole list of them, Tom.
Yeah. I have a ministry coach. His name's Jim Griffith.
Okay.
I meet with him about every other week, and I talk about what's going on in the church. He was a church planter and then was a pastor of several churches, and he's maybe in his 60s, so he's got a lot of wisdom that he shares with me.
That's it.
He often says, don't do that.
Like, no, Tom, no.
Don't do that. And 99% of the time I don't do it. Yeah.
Sometimes though. Were the times that you don't do it or you decided to actually do it, or did he end up being right?
Occasionally when we're talking, I think like I haven't explained the situation well enough for him to get the full context.
Okay.
Because he's in Florida, so he's just getting everything from me. And
got you.
Occasionally I think he didn't quite catch it, but most of the time he does.
I find sometimes like, you get that experience where you're like, okay, I know you told me not to, but I think I'm gonna do this anyway. Like, especially as a kid and like you didn't understand the things that your parents are trying to tell you, and then you get to a certain age and you're like, oh, that's what you were talking about.
And life's a good teacher that way too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Trial and error. Trial and error is fun.
Facts.
Well, hey, it has been so good this morning. I look out, I see folks from Potterville, I see folks from South Lansing, I see folks from our church in a pub. It's been a good worship time today to build those muscles of endurance and perseverance through the trials of life. Next week, don't forget, there's nothing happening at either of our campuses. So you show up at Potterville, you show up here.
Don't come here.
Empty buildings, empty fields. You got to be online.
But they can come and hang out at the patio though if they show up here anyway, right?
They could hang out
They
the
can hang
patio. There is free Wi-Fi in the patio, so you can watch it. In fact, we would love at least those of you who want to do Two Rivers Church with me in South Carolina. We would love to create some watch parties in your living room or maybe in your garage or your back deck, wherever your Wi-Fi extends to.
Party time.
So on the back of your connection card, I think that one of the next steps is to do that. If it's not there, then you can just write it in the notes, and we'll be in touch. Invite your friends to join in South Carolina in your living room next week, or at United Church with Pastor Mark. Both of those are at 10 a.m. next week. We wanted to wrap this service up just giving you a taste of the next series that we're doing, which isn't going to be until August 8th, so it's 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we are going to go into a series called What Would Jesus Say?
That'll work. Are we coming back here, or are we wrapping up right after that video?
We're back. We're back here.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, here we go.
I am a millennial.
I am part of Gen Z.
Millennial.
Generation Z. Millennial. Gen Z.
I wonder what Jesus would say about discrimination.
There's this idea that they are the other and they were not born here, and to be American looks like a very specific thing. White.
I wonder what Jesus would say about how we're treating the planet today.
There's no redos, there's no second chance.
I wonder what Jesus would say about polarization.
Creating divides in people, and people aren't willing to listen to each other.
We've let the old saying that if you're not with me, you're against me permeate all of our society.
I wonder what Jesus would say about mental health.
It's stigmatized and it's not well understood.
Older generations need to be educated on it so they can help their kids out, because it's scary for both of them.
We're called to create change and make the world better.
I wonder what Jesus would say.
I wonder what Jesus would say.
I wonder
what Jesus
would say.
Polarization, the mental health,
discrimination,
Polarization.
Climate change.
Inequality.
Climate change.
Mental health.
I wonder what Jesus would say.
Bye.